Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, today we're looking at the engineering behind joint replacement.
Yeah, so this one is near and dear, James. I don't have any technically yet, but I'm fairly certain that I'm going to need at least one, maybe two replacement joints that I'll get into whenever I get to my rant, because it's a very personal rant, James. It's very heartfelt.
Well, at your advanced age, Luke,
Oh,
I would expect that you would have at least one, if not 17, artificial joints.
yeah,
So,
and the problem is I know people. Our boy Johnny T that
yeah,
I just caught up with today. I remember when he had his hips done,
me
and it
too.
was just like, you did not look good, brother. Whew.
And he did it young.
Yeah,
So imagine
yeah,
doing that when you're
oh,
actually older kind of person.
yeah.
Wow. Couple fun facts for you to get started
Right
with.
off the bat,
Heck
nice.
yeah. 1.3 million artificial knees are put in around the world each year. That is so many knees.
That's a lot of
700,000 in
knees.
the US alone.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Fun fact number 2.
shoot.
There are over 400,000 hip replacements in the US alone each year. That
One
is a
of
lot
those
of
is my
hips.
one of those is my mother's.
Was it really bad for her?
Yeah, like she was almost like immobile. So and it's
Uh,
crazy. Like, you talk about like the good things that come out of like medical procedures and stuff. So she was pretty much immobile for like a really long time, and like even just like her stature was different because she was in so much pain. Like when she
mhm.
got done with like her rehab and all that sort of stuff, she was tall. She looked like she was taller. She's walking around. I mean,
I
it was
need
crazy.
this.
Like it was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was bananas. Like how, like for her, like how good the surgery turned out for her.
Well,
So
good. Not so fun fact, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. Between 20 and 25% of people are unhappy with their knee replacement after it happens. That is
yeah,
really bad odds.
we're going to talk about complications probably at the end. Maybe I don't know. We can flip flop around these
All
things,
right.
but so the first, I mean, the number one question that I would have if I'm listening to this amazing episode, James, is,
Amazing.
well,
Amazing.
why do you get a joint replacement in the first place? Maybe you're young like yourself, and
Like
like
me,
you're
strapping.
you're full of energy and strong and powerful and
Yeah. All those.
um, completely opposite of you. Um,
Mostly that. Yeah.
so the reason you get these done is there's two kind of primary ones. The first one is just wear and tear. So this is, you're 60, 65, 70, 45, whatever it is, and you either did some sport, maybe you were a carpenter or a bricklayer, maybe the type of occupation you chose really put a lot of wear and tear on your joints. But the number one is purely wear and tear. Like it's just
Hmm.
it's years and years of basically abusing that joint that was never intended to lay bricks or hang drywall or be a runner for your entire life. The second one is injury. So this is one the joints that I will probably need replaced came from injuries. So this is car wrecks. Maybe you're jumping out of an airplane, riding a bike. Whatever it happens to be. You're doing something dumb that you probably shouldn't be. In my own personal example, and then the third, and I would think this one would be higher, is medical conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. So this is
Or
or
osteoarthritis.
osteo.
Yeah.
Osteo everybody gets. You get osteo just based off of
Right.
age, but rheumatoid is like you can like my daughter actually has juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and basically it's your autoimmune system attacking joints, and they become brittle and hard, and they start to degrade, and you have all kinds of issues. So those are like the three or four primary reasons why you get them done, and what happens is you get to the point where you're not comfortable, you're in too much pain, you can't do your daily activities, whether it's your work or exercise or whatever your day-to-day life happens to be, and then you decide that all the other non-surgical and mildly or minimally invasive, which we'll also talk about, just don't work, and you have to just get something new. So, that said, we have to talk about the types of joints that there are. So, you have 6 joints inside of your body, or types of joints.
I was going to say I only have 6.
No,
Wow.
no, no. It's types of
They are
joints.
all bad.
And the two that they can replace primarily, there are some newer ways to do things, are your ball and socket joints. So think of your shoulder or your hip. Those are kind of the two primary ones. I think there may be a few other ones here and there. And then the other ones are hinge joints. So these are knees, elbows. Those are the most typical ones.
Mhm.
And what makes these types of joints different than other joints, like you have joints like in your skull where there isn't fluid, or it's meant to like reduce
There's
movement.
joints in my skull?
Well, where like bones come together, and they don't
Gotcha.
have a joint that's designed for movement, and these joints are lubricated with synovial fluid. So when
Oh,
you pop your
synovial fluid.
fingers,
I don't do that. Oh,
that
no.
is sorry, that is for all of our listeners, that was my knuckles
Oh,
cracking. Sorry, James.
oh,
Um, so a joint that is meant to move has synovial fluid, and that lubricates the joint and makes movement easier and simpler. Osteoarthritis, injury, wear and tear reduces that synovial fluid, and other things can happen that cause you to need to replace those joints. So
wow.
that's kind of like high level, like the joints that they're typically replaced, and why you would get them. And then lastly, and then I want to give you time because I know you have extensive information.
Extensive.
There's actually 2 types of joint replacements as well. There is what they call total joint replacement, and don't Google it on the YouTubes. If you do, watch the animated version. Otherwise, you will have nightmares.
I did see
Children.
some FEA models of it, which was neat.
Yeah, yeah. So seriously, if you do the YouTubes, kids, watch the animated or ask your parents first because it's pretty gruesome. And then there is a partial joint replacement where they're doing, like, they're just getting rid of the bad area, and we'll talk about the differences between the two. So that's what I had to kick us off, James. Where do you
That
want to
was
take us next?
great. I think you got most of it. I just wanted to do a quick history of joint replacement.
Oh,
Fun
there's a
fact,
history.
fun fact for you, Luke. The first known knee replacement was way back in 1217. Captain Blackbeard had a bad knee and they lopped it off and they stuck a peg leg on there. That was the first knee replacement.
I don't know if that's a replacement or an amputation. I think
Is that different?
yeah, that's more of a prosthetic.
Oh, well, then I have nothing. That was my
Okay.
whole history of
Your
joint
history,
replacements.
did you
So,
say Ahab, or who did you
no,
say?
that was Captain Blackbeard, I think.
Is that
I
the
don't
squid
remember.
face
I
from?
don't. No, that was Davy Jones,
Oh, that was
wasn't
Davy
it?
Jones's locker. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a quick history.
Thank you. I did have, like, I kind of focused on knees. Like, I think most people are more familiar
Do you
with
know
knee
why you
replacement
focused on knees, James?
because
Because
it's the most
the two
common.
most common are hips and knees. There's all kinds of other things, like you can do wrists and elbows and fingers and toes and stuff like
Right.
that, but it's primarily knees and hips.
Imagine fingers. So I have some wonderful psoriatic arthritis, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't even imagine them going in there and like doing something to my knuckles to try and
Yeah,
make, like, how could that be good? I
it's
don't know.
not. That's probably why they don't do
Um
it that often.
that's probably true. So let me walk through the parts of a fake knee, and then I would love
Ooh.
to, in graphic detail, tell you
Oh.
about the actual surgery that's done to your knee. What do you
Oh.
think?
Yes, please.
Okay, so to start, the parts of a fake knee. So funny you said the leg getting lopped off and the peg leg getting put on there as a prosthesis. Artificial joints are also referred to that, which I always kind of thought that's kind of strange. I always think of like we've done like artificial limb episodes
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. That's always what I had in mind. But if you think about it, this is a prosthesis of sorts.
It's just
So
internal.
that's interesting. Just internal. Yeah. So I'm no doctor. So who am I to say? So focusing on the knee replacement, again, like you said, the most common of all of these wonderful joint replacement surgeries. It's basically made up of 3 parts: the femoral component,
Femoral,
femoral. Oh
because it's
goodness.
your femur.
Oh my
And plus, I
goodness, Luke,
watched a
look
lot
at
of
you.
videos. Yeah.
Femoral. Femoral.
Yeah, like your femoral
Femoral,
artery, your
like your
femur. Yeah,
femoral.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So it replaces the end of your thigh bone or femur. And if you're fancy like Luke, it's your femur.
If I pass out as you're describing this, just
I'll
keep
keep it
going.
look.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll keep a watch on your face
yeah,
to see
just
if you
keep
start
going.
getting pale. So this part that's replacing the end of your thigh bone that gets carved away. But anyways, we'll get into that. Is made out of metal, and it's going to be shaped to fit the femoral. What is it? Condyles. Is that right?
I don't know about
So
that.
basically, it fits to your bone nicely.
Yep.
The kind of drill hole fits in there nicely. Next, you have the tibial component, which you guessed properly. Maybe it replaces the top of the tibia, which is the lower leg bone. So that's exciting and pleasant, I'm sure. This part is made up of a metal plate that goes into your leg bone, but then it has a plastic bearing surface that like articulates and allows that leg movement against the metal part of that femoral component that was put into the other thing. Fun fact for you, Luke, as fun as this stuff gets, the plastic is so strong and smooth that you could make like a ice skating rink out of it and ice skate on it, and you wouldn't do any damage to the material. So, strong
So
stuff.
that material is UHMWP, or
Wow.
ultra high molecular weight polyurethane. And whenever you Google that and you look at the applications for ultra high molecular weight polyurethane, like chain guards, bumpers for boats. This is the most incredibly durable plastic, and the reason why this one is different than some other plastics is it's completely non-toxic. So if there was ever an issue like in your body, like it would never cause any toxicity or cause any problems inside of your body. So
that's good too. The last piece that you have before we take a break would be the patella component. And patella is a nice word because when you say it's the back of your kneecap, that just makes me squirm a little bit, and I don't need that. Yeah. So this bit's also made out of plastic or whatever fancy letters you were just throwing around, since you're basically a doctor. It fits nicely and moves around the patella femoral groove that we've already been talking about. And just like your kneecap, it moves, like you can grab it and like jiggle it around. So a lot of motion there. Now I'm going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then I'm going to get into the actual surgery and how they get these pieces where they go.
I have to assume it's like Stryker Systems. They make a lot of knee replacement joints. No,
they do, but they did not get back to me when I reached out. So again, this week we do not have any sponsors, but we do have shout outs, which are way better anyways.
So much better.
We paid the bills. Shout out number 1 is from Dan, a student teacher who asks us, what was something in the engineering types of classes that we would like to see more of that would inspire kids to go into engineering? So I answered him via email already. So I was curious, Luke, if you were a student teacher teaching STEM classes, what would be that thing that sticks out that would make that class awesome?
So this is like high school.
Kids excited.
Middle
school,
teacher.
High school. Yep.
Oh, I would definitely do like hands-on type of stuff. Like I would do the balsa wood bridges. I would do, stuff with like, I'm drawing a blank on the Vex, I think, the robotics. I would without a doubt do
robotics, like
hands-on type applications, because as good as you might be prepping them for, college with like, an academic type class. I think hands-on activities, like the balsa wood bridge, like in middle school, I think I did it in like 8th grade, was like one of the coolest things that like we ever did.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of wish my high school had some like robotics classes. This is, oh my goodness, like 30 years ago. But I would definitely do hands-on. Whatever you can do hands-on, do hands-on.
That's so funny. We basically said the same things, from my school didn't have this and do hands-on. I gave the example, I've talked about it in many episodes, of like the RC car that we had in college, that it was like tear this apart, model it in CAD, like put it back together, learn about gear ratios, and you have something that you're looking at to understand. So totally agree, Luke.
Yeah.
Shout out number 2, Alan R. He wrote in and said, it only took me 8 months to realize that you had replied and write this response. So I appreciate that Alan is
way to go,
bad at this
dog.
as well. He says, I am the worst. I also watched one of your videos for the first time ever. Gotta admit, James, you look nothing like I imagined. Luke, you actually look a bit like I imagined. but cool to finally put faces to your voices.
I
So
have
there
to
we go.
assume he watched one of my mustache episodes.
That's the only one anyone goes to watch after we said that. So I really do think you need to grow the mustache.
Oh, no.
I loved
No,
it.
it's not good for my marriage.
That's fair. I can understand. Well, if any of you would like a shout out, if you'd like me to pretend like I'm going to send you some stickers, if you have some suggestions for episodes or anything of that sort, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews. And as always, you can tell your smart device to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast anytime.
Wonderful, Luke. I'm going to jump right back into the actual surgery.
Okay. Yeah,
So the doctor or someone that you trust that seems to know what they're talking about, like Luke here, starts by making a slice down your knee. I think it's usually 6 to 10 inches long, they say. And then they go ahead and they grab that and they pull the skin back real nicely. And what's just awful is then they pull your kneecap to the side and flip it over so that the doctor can see all of your knee bits on the inside. So again, don't watch the videos. It's terrible.
Animations.
From there, the doctor has to get rid of all of your gross arthritic natural parts that you still have in there, which match up with all the fake parts that we described earlier. And so to do this, they use something called a bone saw, which, well, it saws your bone.
You know what it is? I watched the video.
I know.
It's basically like an oscillating tool from Lowe's.
It is. It's like a Dremel or something.
Yeah, and there's a little blade on it. It just go. It's that's all it is. It's an oscillating trial tool. They
have like a guide that they'll put on that they'll attach to your bones to keep it where it needs to be, and then they cut these nice smooth marks into your bones so that they have a perfect surface to apply all of the fake parts to that we talked about. So they shape those bone surfaces perfectly to fit those fake parts. The doctor then temporarily puts the fake bits in and tests your knee, so making sure that it can still move around and have as much range of motion as possible with the fake parts in there. And I just kind of like when I was doing this, I was like, I imagine they just have this big pile like in a box, like, this shape looks like it's about to fit, and they match it up. Turns out they have over 200 sizes of these like off the shelf knee replacement bits. So they kind of figure out which one is the best fit for your shape and size, and then they put them in accordingly. And so after they've tested it out, they have the parts all matched up and they move your knee around. They pull all of that stuff back out, and then they put them in more permanently. Sometimes this requires the use of a special cement that they attach to the metal parts that they then jam into your bone, because they also drilled a hole in there for you to like put the nice metal plug into your bone. And then they smush it down real firm. And then they just kind of like take their finger and they lick it a little bit and they wipe it around the edge, like all the excess. So they have a tool to do it, but really it's just like putting tile down or something.
Yeah,
where
the squeeze out.
Yeah, the squeeze out, and you just clean that up. And basically you're all good there. They put your kneecap, like they flip it back over, they put the back on it, they put your leg back, they sew you back up, and you're off. What's even crazier is, I guess, fun fact, only 1 to 4 days you're going to spend in the hospital. And to get out on the sooner end, you have to be able to pass a few tests, which include being able to get out of bed safely, which I struggle with currently. So that's something. Walking 75 feet and going up and down stairs. So, be able to do those 3 things and you should be good to go.
So what you just described is essentially the exact same thing for a hip replacement. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit, and just a slight difference, is the difference between total knee replacement, what you just described, and total hip replacement.
Well, I do it if you're not going all the way.
And partial. So interestingly, like, so for knees, apparently total knee, and I read this in a couple different places, so there was a little bit of conflicting information. I think it depends on which doctor.
Yeah.
Total knee replacement is preferred over partial knee replacement, because you're literally making 2 brand new mating surfaces that are perfectly clean. A partial knee replacement is where the majority of the bone, or maybe only one surface, has been done. So it's essentially the same surgery, just they're not cutting the bottom of your femur off and the top of your tibia completely, like two flat surfaces. Usually there's some original bone. A lot of times those ones are like injuries.
Hmm.
Because usually if it's like something osteo or rheumatoid, the whole entire joint is just destroyed and they have to just replace the whole joint. A lot of times, if it's an injury, it might just be a certain location that was injured during that. Hips are a little bit different though. So hip replacements, very similar. They cut the top of your femur off, or a portion of your femur this time, which seems worse than the bottom of the femur. I don't know
It's a
why.
small bone, so it's
Oh.
easy.
So they cut the top of that off, and this is whether it's partial or a full hip replacement. They cut the top of that off, and they jam this spike that is anywhere from like 4 to 6 inches down inside of the bone, and it's just disgusting. And then there's this like perfect little ball, like and it's because this is not a hinge joint anymore. This is now a ball and socket joint, and there's a perfect little ball. And again, they have all kinds of variations of this to be the right angle for your particular hips. You're gonna say something? You look
I'm just thinking
disgusted.
about getting the ball into the socket.
Yeah.
That
So in a total hip replacement, they grind out your socket in your hip and they put in an artificial socket that matches the ball perfectly, and they do anchors and the cement and everything, and you have so the reason it's called a total is the entire connection is artificial. So that is a total hip replacement. Sometimes if your hip joint, your hip socket, the socket part, not the ball, is in good shape, they just get in there with like a Dremel and they smooth it out. They get rid of any of the bursitis and roughness, and they basically clean the inside of the socket, and then they jam the ball back in there. Apparently, that is better than total. So for hip replacement, doing a partial hip replacement
less is
is
more.
actually better. And I think it's because it's a more major joint. It's more load bearing, and there's other issues that can have. You're more likely to be mobile quicker.
It has
from
to be a more
partial.
complex procedure, and like there's a lot more going on there.
Yeah.
Ugh. Luke, can we please take a break for this week's Luke's rant before
Okay.
I kind of pass out here?
So yeah, so my rant is pretty personal. Like, so I have had major shoulder surgery, not replacement, just kind of re-anchoring things in my shoulder, and I also had 3 knee surgeries on my left knee.
3.
Yeah, so I had arthroscopic, and then I had like 2 follow-up surgeries because it like kind of didn't take. They needed to redo them. So mine was all just reattaching like tendons, cleaning up the joint, not replacing any of the joint. And I have to say, like, if I knew now what I knew then, I think I would have opted for like a total knee replacement.
Really? How old were you when you did this?
I was in my
Or
early
when you
20s.
started this?
I was like in my
Wow.
early 20s, and I think
how many times you would have to have had that replaced.
yeah,
then.
because they say they only so I was going to get to that next as a part of the rant was so that
Sorry.
no, that's okay, but and it's more like my knee is always giving me problems. It's always giving out. It makes funny noises because my bursitis and stuff is clicking. Like it's especially my shoulder's pretty good, but my knee always gives me trouble. Whenever the weather changes, it gets hot.
I've had to
it gets
carry
cold,
you
it
home many
rains.
times.
I
Yeah.
know. So if I knew now what I knew then, I would probably, in the new study that I'm going to talk about here in a minute when I'm done with my rant, I probably would have done a total knee replacement. So that's my rant. I kind of, if depending on your
Do you
age,
feel misinformed? Like you
Yeah.
feel like you didn't have the full story when you went in, and they were like, "Oh, he's young. We're just going to do this."
I mean, 20 years ago, they would never have considered a total knee replacement on someone my age. It wasn't even an
Yeah.
option. So,
Okay.
but I think nowadays, so let's talk about how long these joints typically last. So typically, like nowadays, is they last 10 to 15 years. So, which isn't great. I mean, if you think
No.
about that, it's not really all that good. But
If you're 75 and you have it done, it's
yeah, and
pretty
you're
okay,
dying in 2
but-
years, you're good. Sorry for anybody that's 75 listening. But a brand new study in 2019, and this was over in the European countries, They just did a brand new analysis. They looked at over 300,000 total knee replacements and 200,000 total hip replacements. And they found that 60% of hip replacements lasted 25 years, 70% lasted 20 years, and 90% lasted. Those percentages don't add up. I'm not sure why that did that.
Well, maybe it's like if you lasted 15
Oh yeah, I
you're
get you.
like if you lasted 25, then you still fall into that
Yes,
15
yes,
or
you're
whatever.
right. So 90% lasted 15 years. Yeah, you're right. So
That's
it's a
still
yeah.
10% that is
Knees.
less.
Yeah, so the 82% of all of the knees lasted 25 years. So
That's solid.
if I would have got it then, I would just be getting a new one now, and I'd be done for the rest of my life probably. Maybe what am I 80
I hope not.
plus? I might not. I guess I could live to my
But
90s.
you might be so old at that point that you're like, man,
Yeah, who cares,
I'll
right?
struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I um
Get a
so
hover around.
in the biggest thing about this is the materials. So you talked about the the part that connects to your femur, the part that connects to your tibia. So back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, this was like metal on metal. They're like, oh, nothing beats a metal socket. Well,
We'll put
here
some iron in there.
it turns out like metal on metal doesn't do great like inside of the body, even if it's like surgical steel and all the different things they make it out
Yeah.
of. But what they've done is they have the most common joint is metal on the bottom, metal on the top, and this is typically titanium alloy, stainless steel,
Mm-hmm.
cobalt, chromium alloy. And what they found was that ultra high molecular weight polyurethane
Mm-hmm.
um, in the middle. So you actually have a metal to plastic connection. So it's a smoother bearing. They're getting into ceramics.
Yep.
Have been talked about now.
Like a
So
zirconium ceramic or
yeah.
something.
So
Yeah.
like metal to metal is bad. And I think what's happening, and the cool thing is they can do an update. So let's say you'd have what you described, metal, metal, plastic in the middle. They can just go in and pull out that plastic piece that's wearing out and pop in a brand new plastic piece.
Simple.
And all of a sudden you're like, I mean, you put a zipper in, right?
You're
Just,
fixed, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So that's why they're lasting longer, is obviously advances in materials, advances in like just the way they do the surgeries. A lot of these are done robotically. A lot of them, they're doing 3D scans of your bones
Yeah, I
ahead
was
of
gonna say
time.
that. Yeah, like what I described was that off the shelf kind of thing, and
Hmm.
typically that's a more cost effective method as well. But exactly like you're saying, they can do X-rays and MRIs and all of those great things to do 3D modeling of your bits inside of there, and
Hmm.
then they form everything off of those before they get in there. So all of the parts are notched up perfectly for your needs. I did see though that they haven't done a ton of studies to see if this custom joint is a whole lot better than the off the shelf kind of thing that
Yeah.
they've been doing. So that'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else on the process. I have some alternatives, how to avoid them, and complications. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to get into.
No, just one more thing. I have a like this gross sounding cartilage mimicking gel that Duke University's been working on that I
Okay.
wanted to talk about. I did think it's super cool though that like what you're saying, the metal on metal bad, but then they'll even do like the polyethylene like
Mm-hmm.
liner in the hips to do exactly what you're saying. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like makes it not grindy and then easy to replace.
Uh,
But the gel stuff, I guess they've been talking about this for a long time, and it's how do we make a material that acts like cartilage does, and that's, I mean, it's kind of like a magic substance in your joints where
mm-hmm.
you can bounce around and you can smash it and it's still really strong, but it also like braces you for these impacts that your joints are taking. And up until now they've never been able to recreate something that acts like this. But Duke University, pretty good school.
Not bad.
I mean, I don't know about for engineering, but for medical stuff, they're pretty okay. They say they've recreated or they've created an experimental gel that matches the strength and durability of like your natural goodness inside.
Interesting.
So it looks kind of like Jello. If you know like Jello jigglers,
Yeah, yeah.
there's like, yeah, it looks kind of like that, but it's really strong. It's 60% water. Um, and like a quarter size, like, quarter 25-cent piece disc size can hold 100 pounds of weight on it. So of course your knees and joints would have more than that in them,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't tear or lose its shape on that size. It's the first hydrogel, or material made of water absorbing polymers, capable of withstanding both the tugging loads and the heavy smashing
Oh,
loads
the
that a
compressive
human
stuff.
body, would have. And it doesn't wear out over time. And what's cool about this is, like, right now, everything we've described over the last 30 minutes is removing all of your joint for the most part, or, carving part of it
Mm-hmm.
away. This is a possible alternate solution, because all you're doing is kind of like jamming this stuff back in between the joints, and now
Mm-hmm.
it would replace the cartilage, which is the main problem for why you have to have these
Yeah.
joints replaced anyways. So this hydrogel, it consists of two like intertwined polymers, is kind of like a real stretchy spaghetti, we'll say, but it's really rigid as well. Just stuff that in your knee and potentially
You're good
fixes
to
all of
go.
these problems. They think in about another year, 2 years, they're going to be able to get this starting to be tested for FDA approval.
Sign me
But
up. I'm gonna need some in a couple years.
yeah,
Alrighty, so let's move on to we got to talk about complications. This is surgery. This is
sure.
medical. You can definitely trust James and I for all medical advice. Just
Fact.
heads up. So complications, and this is in order of problems, and these are typical with really any surgery, but in particular hip surgery. Because of like where it is, and you're dealing with some really big veins in your
Mm-hmm.
body that are working. So the number one is wound infection. You get a doctor that sneezes, someone, you have someone in the peanut gallery that drops in. What did Kramer drop in? It was something minty.
Junior mint.
You have someone drop a junior mint inside of your wound as you're being operated on, and they're sewing it up. So wound infection, infection in and around the prosthetic or prosthesis. So this is at your body kind of rejecting it. This is inside. Number three is blood clotting. And you don't think about that with like, oh, I'm getting my knee. Apparently, because of all the blood flow and like, especially with hip joints, like I think it's a deep
Carving that bone away.
deep thrombosis something. But blood clotting is like one of the major ones for hip surgery in particular.
Mm-hmm.
The prosthetic could malfunction itself. It could just like they put it in, it doesn't set right, the cement didn't work right while they were cleaning it up with the finger method you were talking about. It just doesn't work.
Not so fun fact on that, Luke. Artificial joints can actually have a recall, just like your car or
And
your
it's
truck.
in your body.
Yeah. Apparently, a while back, 1 in 8 people given a certain Johnson and Johnson joint replacement had to go back for an additional surgery within 5 years because of a recall on it.
Oh no. I wouldn't be doing that. And then the
Yeah.
last one, and there's a whole bunch of them, but the last one I'm going to talk about is nerve damage. And I actually have this personally from my knee surgery. It wasn't a replacement surgery, but just going in and fixing all my tendons and cleaning stuff up. So I have no feeling on the right side of my inside of my knee. Like I can literally stab it with a knife and I don't
Really?
feel it. And when I touch the outside of the left side of my knee, I feel it on the right side. It's like phantom pain. So I touch the left side of my leg.
Connected some wrong wires.
Yeah,
over there,
and
huh?
and apparently whenever they're cutting through and doing all that stuff, some nerve damage happens. So,
Interesting.
so let's say you want to avoid all this, James.
I do.
Okay,
do.
first of all, how to avoid this? Diet, exercise, drink a lot of water, keep all those synovial fluids, nice and hydrated. So if you don't drink a lot of water, you will have cartilage issues because all that synovial fluid is essentially water in your body. So drink a lot of water, kids, and avoid high risk activities. In my case, skiing whenever you probably shouldn't have been skiing.
I don't know what that means, Luke.
I was not in the right. What's the word?
Frame of mind.
Frame of mind to be skiing, and I
Gotcha.
tumbled and fell, and that's how I hurt my knee. Then we got to talk about alternatives super quick. You can obviously take meds. Anti-inflammatories help a ton. You can do physical therapy, which in my experience does nothing. I've done physical therapy so many times for so many different things, and I feel like it's like 40 minutes of pain, and then it's like
Isn't that just a box you have to check so you can go get the next procedure?
I'm pretty sure that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. Injections. This one is brand new to me. I got one in my neck the other day because I got some degenerative disc disease
The
in my
other
neck.
day?
um and it's amazing. Like, no, not the other day, it was like a month or two ago. In my
Still.
neck, fixes it like instantaneously. You can obviously wear braces, not on your teeth, but like braces on. You can get like a Tommy Copper sleeve for your knee, like Brett Favre, and throw the
Yeah.
ball further. That copper stuff's a joke, but you could actually get a legitimate medical brace that would help, and you can also do arthroscopic procedures. So my knee was done twice arthroscopically, which is super minimally invasive. I was home the same day. A lot of pain, but
Probably
still,
not when they did the
yeah,
nerve damage.
yeah, way better than like the full blown knee surgery. So
All right. Well,
that's what I
next
got, James.
episode should be sponsored by UPMC.
It should be.
Excellent, Luke. That was well done. I love when you know all sorts of stuff about a topic so that you can just like go on about it. That's great. It
Sorry.
feels like near and dear to your heart.
Well, I'm gonna need probably a new shoulder, definitely a new knee.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna re-listen to this podcast in 10 years whenever I have to get it done. So
All right, sounds good. Well, hopefully all of you enjoyed this really disgusting episode about joint replacement.
don't watch
If
the
you have
videos.
if you have any horror stories, if you want to tell us that this was an unnecessary topic for us to cover, if you just want to say what a great job we did, anything like that, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
See it.